talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gulley, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gulley, yes I am. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. One, two, three, four. They call me Mr. Gulley. I've got something for your ear. Now it might sound kind of funny, but I'll make it very clear. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gulley, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gulley, yes I am. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way.
Hey everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What is shaking on your Monday night? Hope you had a great weekend. I had a great weekend. Two reasons, and they're both in the room right now. Two reasons. Oh wait, let me tell you about George Foreman here tonight. But before we get going any further, I had a great weekend because even though I was super late, Metal Maiden Vicky is here. I actually got to, take in a little of Metal Maiden Vicky's Metal Euphoria on sonicsylumradio.com. The Wolf was there, and she was kind enough to play several songs by one of my favorite groups of all time, Sex Bob-omb. Sex Bob-omb, big favorite group of mine. And I have to admit, yesterday, I watched 2 episodes of Columbo that actually pertain. I saw where I was in the Rumpled Trenchcoat of Columbo podcast hierarchy, and I watched 2 episodes and listened to the Rumpled Trenchcoat podcast on YouTube afterwards. If you're not following this show, you are missing out. It is such a good show. I really enjoyed myself. I did that yesterday while I was tidying up around the house and also laying on the floor. So there you go. Yes, Metal Maiden Vicky is here. We do have the most cheerful chat room on the internet, as verified by independent sources. Before we go any further, if you could do me a large favor, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, especially subscribe. Please subscribe. It's just a little click. You never have to watch the show again. Just please subscribe. And that helps us with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing algorithm. Also, we have super chats. We have memberships. We really appreciate it when you help us out that way. It helps us pay the bills around here. Plus, if you look at what I call the begging bar, that's where I beg you to do things at the bottom of the screen. You can see how to turn on your gifted memberships, and some very generous, wonderful person from our little group here might just gift you a membership so that you can, oh my God, look at that. Just asking ye shall receive. Rumpled Trenchcoat has gifted 5 Tom Gulley Show memberships out of the goodness of his heart. Out of the goodness of his heart. And so 5 lucky people will now get that exclusive members-only content that I am too scared to put on the regular web. So there we go. Rumpled Trenchcoat says, oh, I made the highlight reel in that last montage. You sure did, buckaroo. So did Metal Maiden Vicky. And for that, both of you, I'm giving both of you the point. And I'm doing it in the new way that StreamYard just absolutely shrinks my screen to nothing, even though I want it to look like this. They do whatever they want. I pay them for that. I pay for that. By the way, coming up on the show this week, thank you so much. You've gotten the point. There's the double point. You got one in real life, too. And coming up this week on the show, tomorrow night, yes, our subject is lint. I'm doing a show on lint in all its various forms. Then Wednesday night, Elvis Costello. Thursday night, Lenny Bruce. Friday night, ball jars. There we go. We got the whole weekend planned. The whole week planned, excuse me. Gilman says, hey, Gully heads, or Gullerinos, or Gully gang, or whatever you would like it to be. Hello, Gilman. Always good to see you. Gene1313 says, hey to the wonderful people in the best chat and best host ever. You are so kind. Thank you so much. Proving again that we have the most cheerful chat room on the internet, is verified by independent sources. People saying hi. I'm so glad you enjoy. How can you not enjoy that show? How can you not enjoy that show? People saying hi. Tim Jenkinson is here from across the pond. And Tim, I've got a lot of problems with Arsenal. I've got more problems with the United States national team, which they ought to just, 11 living heart donors. That's all I got to say. Will they make a giant grill for his coffin? I don't know. I don't know what they'll do. But let's get this on the screen. There we go. There we go. I've got my... I never throw out boxes in case I move. So there's my... Wait, let's do this side. This side's got tasty burgers on it. Hold on. There we go. This is George Foreman. There we go. And then the tasty burgers, right? Tasty burgers. It's got all the benefits in Spanish and in English. The things I do for this show. The things I do. Anyway. Let's see what we got going here. People saying hi. Metalman Vicky says, thanks, Tom. It was fun having you guys in the chat room tuned in. I love chat room inspired songs. Sex Bomb. They're so good. People saying hi. People saying hi. People saying hi. Metalman Vicky also enjoys Rumple's podcast. Everybody that listens to it loves it. We just got to get more people listening to it. I would get more people listening to it. Of course, I'm unable to get people to listen to this show, so I'm of no help at all. Rumble Trenchcoat says, thank you, Vicky, and thanks for commenting in there. It's always fun to hear people's opinions in there. Metal Maiden Vicky says, I just saw the episode with Robert Culp, Dean Stockwell, and Valerie Harper. That is star-studded. That's what we call star-studded. This star-studded. The chef is in the house. He's a real chef, ladies and gentlemen. He chefs all over the place. Rumble Trenchcoat says, the Ding-a-Ling Ice Cream Man episode, Vicky. Yes, hopefully the Ice Cream Man will not be by here. Hello, Tom. Hello. And hiya, chef. Yes, the ice cream guy has not been by thus far. So I assume he will be by, although in his defense, it is 81 degrees. So there we go. Oh, I got some people liking and reposting on Twitter. That's great. That is great. People saying hi. And people saying hi. And people saying hi. We love that. Why don't we just get to our topic tonight? Oh, did I not? Yeah, doggone it. I didn't open up my thing. I usually now these days have my thing opened up, but I don't have it opened up yet. So I'm opening up my thing right now. Typically I do these days. I have a lot of prep time now, so a lot of that stuff's done, and people saying hi. People saying hi. Now, don't get crazy, but I'm going to show you a George Foreman photo I guarantee you've never seen before. And I love this particular photo of George Foreman. Look at that. Why do they keep doing this to me? Look at that. Look at that, George Foreman. Why don't we just go ahead and do it that way? Look at that. George Foreman, for those of you who don't know, just passed away 3 days ago. And we know him best as the American professional boxer. But he was also a businessman, as I just showed you with the George Foreman Grill, a minister and an author. In boxing, he did have a 10-year hiatus, but he competed between 1967 and 1997, and his nickname was Big George, because that's what he was. He was not a one-time world heavyweight champion. He was a two-time world heavyweight champion and an Olympic gold medalist, and he's the namesake of the George Foreman Grill. He had a very troubled childhood, but he took up amateur boxing and won a gold medal in the heavyweight division at the 1968 Summer Olympics, and that got him a little meeting with the President of the United States. He turned professional. We'll get into all those details very quickly. He very famously lost his heavyweight title to Muhammad Ali in the Rumble in the Jungle in Zaire in 1974, and he retired just about 3 years after that. And then he became born again and an ordained Christian minister. Then he announced a comeback, and just a few years later, he won the unified WBA, IBF, and lineal heavyweight championship titles by knocking out 26-year-old Michael Moorer. Just an amazing story, an amazing life, really. He retired with a final record of, get this, 76 wins, 68 of them by knockout, and only 5 losses. 5 losses. He's obviously in the World Boxing Hall of Fame. He was named one of the 25 greatest fighters by Ring Magazine, the 9th greatest puncher of all time. I think he should be much higher than that. He was a ringside analyst for HBO Boxing for 12 years until 2004. Very successful entrepreneur. He was known for the George Foreman Grill and his promotion of it, which has sold 100 million units by 2011. And the reason it hasn't sold more is those things are indestructible. They last forever. Most people don't know this, but I'm just going to tell you. He sold the rights to that thing in 1999 for $138 million. $138 million. I'm telling you. Look at that. Well, why don't I get to just a few of your comments here real quickly? And then we'll get into the dirty details. And they're not dirty. They're just, this guy lived an amazing life and always smiling, always positive. Good old George Foreman. Born in Marshall, Texas in January of 1949, he grew up in the 5th Ward of Houston with 6 siblings. Although he was raised by J.D. Foreman, whom his mother had married when George was a small child, his biological father was Leroy Moorhead. By his own admission in his autobiography, George was a troubled youth. He dropped out of school at age 15 and became a mugger. He was, not on the straight and narrow path. At age 16, his mother convinced him to sign up for the Job Corps after seeing an ad on television. And as part of that program, he earned his GED, trained to become a carpenter and bricklayer. The family then moved to Pleasanton, California. With the help of a supervisor, he began to train as a boxer. He was interested in football because he idolized the great running back Jim Brown, who we've also done a show about. But he gave it up for boxing. Started to have a lot of success as an amateur boxer and won the gold medal in boxing in the heavyweight division at the 1968 Mexico City Olympic Games. In the finals, he defeated the evil Soviet Union's Jonas Kapoulis. The referee stopped the fight in the second round. Kapoulis' face was already bleeding in the first round from Foreman's punches and had to take a standing 8 count in the second round very early. And this fighter he fought against was a 12-year veteran, like many of the Soviets were, and had over 220 fights on his record, very experienced, pretty much a professional, 10 years older than Foreman. Foreman very, very, very iconically, after winning the gold medal fight, walked around the ring carrying a small U.S. flag and waving it and bowing to the crowd. He maintained throughout his life that earning the Olympic gold medal was the achievement he was most proud of in his boxing career, far more so than either of his 2 world titles. That iconic photo of him waving the flag, this little flag he had, is so iconic, I can't find any public domain photos of it, and therefore you won't see any on the program tonight. I would go through all of his amateur honors. There's so many of them. It would take me a half an hour to list them. Although he did spar for 5 rounds on 2 different occasions in July of 1968 with former world heavyweight champion Sonny Liston. And Foreman recalled that Liston was no doubt the scariest human being I've ever met in the ring. So it was kind of scary outside the ring, too. If you know anything about the life of Sonny Liston, he was... he had let's just say he had a checkered past, shall we? Let's just say that about Sonny Liston. So George Foreman decides to become a professional. And he had a few warm-up fights, right, early in his career. His very first year in professional boxing was 1969. And people today kind of can't wrap their brain around this. But back in those days, fighters fought a lot more frequently than they do now. They really, like now, a guy will fight and then won't fight for another year. He had a total of 13 fights his first year, and he won them all, 11 of them by knockout. In 1970, he really continued his march toward the undisputed heavyweight title, winning all 12 of his bouts, 11 by knockout. And I got to tell you, George Foreman, my father and I used to watch all of his fights. He hit so hard. He was a big guy, of course, but his punches came straight ahead like a piston. He didn't wind up, no haymakers. They just came straight at you, and he had very, very good footwork. He would throw his punches from a very solid base. And when George Foreman got you hurt, my dad used to say this all the time, once he got you stunned a little bit, sometimes you'll see a guy catch another fighter and then start throwing wildly and miss. George Foreman didn't miss. He just would keep nailing you on the button. He was devastating. As I mentioned, out of his first 25 fights, 22 of them were knockouts. Did I get that right? Yeah, I think I got that number. I think I did the math right there. His last fight in 1970 was against the number 10 ranked heavyweight in the world. In 1971, Foreman won 7 more fights, all of which were by knockout, one of which was a rematch against that 10th ranked in the world boxer who he defeated in the 10th round by knockout. And after amassing a record of 32-0 with 29 knockouts, he was ranked as the number 1 challenger by the World Boxing Association and the World Boxing Council. Now, this next fight I'm going to tell you about is legendary, absolutely legendary in the history of boxing. And it's legendary for one very good reason. Should I try and find the very good reason? Let me see if I can find the very good reason. Because if I find the very good reason, you'll enjoy the very good reason. Trust me on that. I think it's worth it. I was going to load it before the show, and I was lazy. I just didn't prep well enough. I feel shame here now as we speak. Come on now. Be good to me. Be good to me. Oh, gosh dang it. Come on. Come on. This is going to be worth it, trust me. It's really going to be worth it. It's going to make everybody's day. Here's the reason that next fight that I'm going to tell you about is very, very, I better turn this down a little, very famous.
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
That's why. That famous call by Howard Cosell, and it is so good, let's listen to it again.
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
That famous call is from his legendary fight with Joe Frazier in 1972. He challenged the undisputed world heavyweight champion Joe Frazier. Now, Frazier had won the title from Jimmy Ellis and defended his title 4 times since, okay, including beating Ali, right? So, despite Foreman's vastly superior size and reach, he wasn't expected to beat Frazier. He was a 3-1 underdog going into this fight, right? 3-1. They called the fight the Sunshine Showdown, and it was fought in Kingston, Jamaica in January of 1973, with Foreman dominating the fight to win the championship by TKO. In ABC's broadcast, Howard Cosell made the memorable call, down goes Frazier, down goes Frazier, down goes Frazier. Before the fight, Frazier was 29-0, 25 by knockout, and Foreman was 37-0, 34 by knockout. Frazier was knocked down 6 times by Foreman within 2 rounds. The 3 knockdown rule was not in effect for the fight. After the second knockdown, Frazier's balance and mobility were impaired to the extent that he was unable to evade Foreman's combinations. He managed to get to his feet for all 6 knockdowns, but referee Arthur McCanty, famous boxing referee, eventually called an end to the one-sided bout. I have never seen, and I saw Larry Holmes against Tex, I can't think of his last name. I've seen some pretty bad beatings in fights. I never saw anybody get beat up like George Foreman got beat up that day. Never, ever, ever. It was bad. It was really bad. He defended his title just a few times, once against Ken Norton, and Ken Norton was the favorite. Ken Norton had broken Muhammad Ali's jaw and given Ali major problems in 2 different fights. And Foreman, well, yeah, he TKO, knocked him out. They had to stop the fight. Now we come to the big moment in George Foreman's career. Sadly, one of the things that they remember him for the most, and that's the Rumble in the Jungle against Muhammad Ali, which is an amazing story. There's a great documentary about it called When We Were Kings. When We Were Kings. If you get a chance and you like that sort of thing, please watch it. So let's see here. Gilman, I'm going to go through some of your comments here real quickly. Gilman says, my wife and I watch Columbo together now. You are bringing couples closer. Rumble trench coat. Just talk about Foreman. Badass. I had the grill. Rumble trench coat says, hello, Gil. Everyone should bond over Columbo. That's for sure. Gilman, nice. Gilman says, Big George was a beast, one of the greatest punchers ever. Yes. Metal Main Vicky says, oh, wow, I remember hearing about the Rumble in the Jungle. Yes, that is a heck of a record. The Wolf is with us. Says, hiya, Wolf. Hey, Wolf. Good for him. That's awesome. People saying hi to Rumpled Trenchcoat. Gilman said, Michael Scott even cooked his foot in an episode of The Office on a George Foreman Grill. Yes, they're awesome. I have one here. I love it. I use it all the time. It's the only way to make burgers indoor. Hello, Metal. Metal Main Vicky says, as a badass as he was, I loved his smile and thought he was adorable. He was the consummate pitch man, and he always seemed to be of good cheer. Hello, Gil. People saying hi. People saying hi. People laughing. Donald says, what the H is this show about? Donald, you tell me and we'll both know. Tomorrow night it's about lint. And then Elvis Costello, and then Lenny Bruce, and then ball jars. It's just about anything. It's just about anything. Donald, it's about everything. Donald says, can you learn something here? Well, Donald, that all depends upon you, doesn't it? Hopefully you do. Let's see here. Always. Yes, you always learn something here. Lawrence from over there at the Urban Landlord channels here. Hello, Lawrence. Nice to see you here. What exactly are we learning right now? Well, we're learning about the history of the late, great George Foreman. Ariana May says, can you hear Donald? Ariana May rocks. About George Foreman. I am deaf. Don't make fun of me. He's laughing. Gilman says, his comeback to win the heavyweight belt will never be matched for his age. Well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Metal Man Vicky says, hey, Donald, you click on the video, so may I suggest reading the video title? You guys, thank you for being sarcastic, so I don't have to. But welcome, Donald. Nice to have you here. We do have the most cheerful chat room on the internet, Donald, so welcome. Come on in. The chatting's fine. People saying hi, 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 people saying hi. The Wolf says, Donald, Tom covers everything but politics. Yes, Donald, if there's a topic you'd like me to cover, just say it. I'll write it down on the list, and eventually, you know, people saying hi. Gilman says, that's odd for someone that big to have that kind of footwork. Tyson, I understand. Yeah. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Actually, all right, if you really want me to, I have an extended version of that. Hopefully they don't nail me for it, but I think I'd like to play it anyway. I have an extended version of that. And then the extended version is actually interesting because it's all of Cosell, and Angelo Dundee you can actually hear in the back, Ali's manager. It's only 36 seconds long. I'll see if I can get away with this. Here we go.
And we'll find out tonight just how good George Foreman is in punching and in taking a punch. I think he hurt Joe Frazier. I think Joe is hurt. Angie Dundee, Ali's trainer, right next to me is saying it. You may hear him. Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! The heavyweight champion is taking the mandatory 8 count, and Foreman is as poised.
I love this next part because Cosell is just, and this is the truth.
And Foreman is as poised as can be in a neutral corner. He is as poised as can be. We have a minute left in this first round.
Yeah, the decimation of Joe Frazier started very early. And you did probably, hopefully, hear Angelo Dundee going, he's hurt. He's hurt. He hurt him. He's hurt. Gilman, Rerun could move. He amazed everyone with his dancing. Yes, Fred Berry could really move. He had dancing skills. The Wolf says, I guessed it from what's happening. That is only one legendary call. And the champ is poised as can be. Randall Tex Cobb. Yeah, he took a beating, but he didn't take a beating like Joe. Joe Frazier was just, he would get up. He had the heart of a champion. He really did. He would get up and just, Foreman would just wade in and one shot and he was rubber-legged and just, it's a terrible thing to watch. Watch it sometime on YouTube. It's many people in the sports world and specifically the boxing world said it was insane that Arthur Mercanti let the fight go on that way. They should have stopped it after 2 or 3 knockdowns. I think when you're the champ, sometimes they really want to give you the benefit, and Frazier kept getting up and going back down. Who, by the way, wrote some #1 hits for country and western stars, Randall Tex Cobb, yeah. Lawrence Ritano, says, I remember when Foreman was doing advertising, yes, for the grill. Coach Mike Rudick says, sorry I'm late. Hello to all my friends in chat. Oh, hey, Tom. Donald said he's deaf. He's not deaf. He's just having some fun with us. He may have left. Who knows? Fred Berry is one of the greatest dancers ever. Loved what's happening. Sounds like one of Cosell's, Costello is Wednesday night. Best nights. You know what? We got to do a show on Howard Cosell because Howard Cosell always had a great night. Well, except for one night. We won't get into that this time. But he was amazing. He was really amazing. Lawrence is laughing and people saying hi. So let's just get to the rumble in the jungle, shall we? Shall we get to the rumble in the jungle? Here he is with his manager. Is that his manager or is that his trainer? That's his trainer. And his trainer there, to his right, is also a legendary fighter named Archie Moore. And he trained him for the fight. And by the way, do those clothes not say 1974 more than anything? I wonder if I'm going to get dinged for let me see if I've already gotten dinged for the little indiscretion. The little indiscretion we just had with the, I'd like to kind of see if they, sometimes YouTube, I made it transformative. I stopped it in the middle and talked about it a little bit, so we'll see. Because they're really mean sometimes. They're kind of mean. You know what I mean? Sometimes they're just a little bit mean. Let me see. I'm going to my YouTube studio and see if they've dinged me. See if I'm going to survive. You know. If not, I'll just cut it out of the show. It's not the end of the world, but sometimes they're kind of mean. You know what I mean? You're crushing it. I haven't said anything yet. I used to use that Down Goes Frazier all the time in my opening, and they never said nothing to me about it, you know. They never said nothing. All right, it kind of looks okay. I think the coast is clear so far. I'm getting away with it so far. Anyway, 1974 in Kinshasa, Zaire, the Rumble in the Jungle took place. And during training there in mid-September, something happened that really, a lot of people don't realize how much it affected the fight. And that was Foreman got a cut above his eye, and that postponed the match for a month. And that injury, you can see the cut there taped up over Foreman's eye. That injury meant that he could not spar in the build-up to the fight for fear of opening up the cut again. And George commented that was the best thing to happen to Ali when we were in Africa, the fact I had to get ready for the fight without being able to box. And that also affected his conditioning. Now, Ali used his time to tour Zaire and really endeared himself to the public. And if you watch that award-winning documentary called When We Were Kings, then you'll see that he really endeared himself to the people there in Zaire. And he taunted Foreman at every opportunity. Now, keep in mind, Ali was an aging boxer, and nobody on earth gave him a chance to beat George Foreman. All right? Largely because of the way he had destroyed Joe Frazier, who had beaten Ali in an earlier matchup. When Foreman and Ali finally got it on in the ring, Ali came out far more aggressively than anybody expected, which people hadn't really done with George Foreman. They were so terrified of that devastating punching power that they wouldn't pressure him early on especially. And Ali was outscoring Foreman with one of the big advantages he had, which was superior punching speed. Ali, of course, amazing punching speed, right? And great footwork and movement. In the second round, Ali made the tactical decision to retreat to the ropes and lean back against the ropes. And he shielded his head with his gloves, all right? He covered up his head and would take the body shots. And Foreman just was pummeling him to the body, but he couldn't land those big punches to Ali's head. The ropes were unusually loose, and there was a lot of talk about that was in Ali's favor because it allowed Ali to lean back away from some of those head shots, right? So this was a strategy Ali came up with called rope-a-dope. It was called rope-a-dope. He leaned against the ropes. Ali, known as a fighter of speed and movement, but the rope-a-dope technique worked to a T because Foreman hadn't had a fight that lasted past 4 rounds since 1971. He was used to going in and cleaning up fast. So his stamina was in question. And remember, he couldn't box for the month leading up to the fight, so he didn't really have that finely tuned fighting stamina that you want. Ali continued to trade heavy punishment to the body in exchange for these quick jolts that he would land to Foreman's head. Foreman would go low to the body, and then Ali would just keep popping him right in the head. Ali said 2 times during the fight that he was out on his feet, that Foreman had hit him so hard he was out on his feet. But as Foreman began to tire from all of this punching to the body, the punches began to lose power and they became increasingly wild. And by the middle of the bout, Ali is starting to get confident now because he can tell Foreman is becoming exhausted, right? And now these blows are somewhat rubber-armed. Late in the 8th round, Ali came off the ropes with a series of very hard and accurate right hooks to the side and back of Foreman's head, leaving Foreman dazed and careening backwards. If you've ever seen this legendary knockout, Foreman is just basically being knocked out while he's falling backwards. After a two-flurry punch squared him up, Ali ended the bout with a combination of solid left hooks and a straight right flush to the jaw that sent Foreman windmilling hard to the canvas. The very first time he had ever been down in his career. Foreman later reflected, well, it just wasn't my night. He also later claimed that he was just, he felt like somebody had drugged him, his water or something. He desperately wanted a rematch with Ali, but he wasn't able to get one. In some quarters, it was suggested Ali was ducking him, not wanting another fight, because Ali fought Chuck Wepner and Richard Dunn and some not that great fighters. But Ali at the same time was fighting very formidable opponents like Ron Lyle, and rematches with Ken Norton and Joe Frazier, the only two to have beaten him up until that time. Foreman retired in 1977 after a few fights against some big contenders like Ron Lyle, another fight with Frazier where he knocked him down so many times that first fight that it was just another one-sided victory. He was floored twice and the fight was stopped. They weren't going to go through a rerun of that. He fought Jimmy Young again. Jimmy Young thought to have beaten Ali in a heavyweight fight. And he did, in fact, beat George Foreman. And after that loss to Young, Foreman became very ill after that fight. Exhaustion, heat stroke. He thought that he was near death. He spoke of being in a hellish, frightening place of nothingness and despair. And though not religious, he began to plead with God to help him. He explained that he sensed God asking him to change his life. And he said, I don't care if this is death. I still believe there's a God. And that is when George Foreman became a born-again Christian, dedicating his life for the next decade to God. Although he didn't formally retire from boxing, Foreman stopped fighting and became an ordained minister, initially preaching on street corners before becoming the minister of the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ in Houston and devoting himself to his family and to his congregation. He also opened a youth center that bears his name, which will be very important in just a few minutes. Foreman continued to speak about his experience on Christian television broadcasts such as the 700 Club and the Trinity Broadcasting Network. We'll get to the next chapter in George Foreman's career in just a second. Why don't we go ahead and go through some of your comments? Oh, by the way, please like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. Do all those crazy cool things you can do. Don't cost you a penny. Especially subscribe or maybe repost on your social media. That really, really helps us out with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-seeing algorithm. Plus, we have super chats and we have memberships. Mr. Rumple Trenchcoat has already generously given out some memberships to other people. And if you'd like your gifted memberships turned on, it tells how on the begging bar at the bottom of the screen. All those things would really, really help us out. People saying hi. Howard is a legend. He really is. Yes, people saying hi. The Wolf, rumble, young man, rumble. That's a famous statement from Bundini Brown, Ali's sort of supporter. Let's see here. Lawrence Ritano says 1974. That was 4 years before I was born. That was 11 years after I was born. Rumpled Trenchcoat says, I think Patrick McGowan wore both of those outfits on different episodes. Wolf says, don't you have 30 seconds? Sometimes they're jerks. They're real jerks. Gilman, thank you so much for the super sticker, the $1.99. Well, we'll give you the point for that. Sure, what the heck? Why not? You get the point. Let's see. Coat with only deck shoes. What do we have? Right there? That's good right there. Oh, why do they keep doing that to me? They're jerks. They're a bunch of jerks. Lawrence Furtado, thank you so much for the $10 sending support. Well, we need it, Lawrence. We need all the help we can get. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. Wow. Thanks a lot for that. Lawrence, you're getting the point. You're getting the point without banner. You're getting the point full screen. And you're getting the point without the begging bar. That is the highest honor we can bestow a follower of the Tom Gulley Show. It's the point with all of the trappings removed from it. It's what we call the full point. And not many get that, so thank you very much. Let's put the begging bar back up. Let's put me back in the picture. Let's do all that stuff. Dan Cockrell says, hey, Wolf, I think I'll go down to the castle and we get my dad's George Foreman Grill and have a cookout this weekend. Come on over. We can practice our rope-a-dope. Well, there we go. The George Foreman Grill, ladies and gentlemen. This one with the burgers on it. Is it going to be working? There we go, the George Foreman Grill. Now I can't hear me. And there's all sorts of things on the side of it. What's this say? It says individual size. Individuals, because they make them where you can make like 6 burgers on them and stuff. I'm just a guy. I only need 2 at a time. Hello, I'm on my way with liquor. Julian Zeta says, hi, Tom. Great show. Good to see you, Julian. Now, you want to see an example of great minds think alike? You see me doing the point right there? You see me? Please like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, do all those free things you can do to help us with the algorithm, the almighty algorithm. I only say that because our room count went up. So especially subscribe, but also like and whatever you can do. It's just a click. It only costs a click. The great minds think alike. See the point? Well, you know, all champions do the point. Lawrence, is that athletic support? Yes, it is. People saying hi, and of course, people saying hi. Yes, people saying hi. Well, you know, in 1987, after 10 full years away from the ring, George Foreman shocked the boxing world by announcing a comeback at the age of 38 years of age. In his autobiography, he said the primary motive to do this was to raise money for that youth center that he had started that had his name on it. And it required much of the money that he had made in that early part of his career to create and keep that youth center going. Another one of the ambitions was to fight Mike Tyson. That never happened. But he starts to get back into it. Now, for his first fight, he weighed 267 pounds and was badly out of shape. A lot of people were saying, George, it's a mistake. You shouldn't get back into boxing. And he said, look, I'm doing this to prove that age is not a barrier to people achieving their goals. And he said, age 40 is not a death sentence. He won 4 more bouts his first year, and he began to slim down and improve his fitness. In 1988, the next year, he won 9 fights. And one of them was a 7th round knockout of former light heavyweight and cruiserweight champion Dwight Muhammad Kwai. That fight had to be stopped. Now, George was always a very straight-ahead, deliberate fighter. He didn't have tremendous amounts of mobility and therefore had not lost much mobility in the ring since his first retirement. He couldn't throw rapid combinations anymore, but he was still capable of landing those heavy-duty, high-octane single punches. The late round fatigue that he used to have in the ring as a young man had improved because he had to go longer in the fights now, so he trained for that. And he said his fighting style became relaxed. Earlier in his career, lack of stamina came from an enormous amount of nervous tension, according to George, and that need to finish his opponent right away. He had a more relaxed viewpoint towards it as he got older. By the way, by 1989, while continuing with his comeback, George sold his name and face for the advertising of various products, most notably the successful George Foreman Grill, which we have championed here on this program, not just today, but for many years. We've talked about how wonderful it is. His public persona improved considerably. He was known as being dour and close-mouthed and standoffish and aloof. Well, now he was cheerful, friendly, and self-deprecating. He also befriended Muhammad Ali and made himself a celebrity outside of boxing. Foreman continued to win fights, 5 more in a row. The most impressive being a 3-round win over Bert Cooper, who went on to contest the undisputed heavyweight title against Evander Holyfield. So he's starting to fight some real contenders. The next fight, former title challenger Jerry Cooney in Atlantic City. Cooney was also coming off a long period of inactivity, but was well regarded for his punching power. Cooney wobbled Foreman in the first round, but Foreman landed several powerful punches in the second round. Cooney was knocked down twice, and Foreman finished with a KO. He won 4 more fights that year. Yes. Now, the following year, he actually fought Evander Holyfield, who was the world champion, right? Nobody gave 42-year-old George Foreman a chance of winning. Absolutely nobody. But Foreman started the fight just wading forward into Holyfield's best combinations, and once in a while, tagging him pretty good himself. Holyfield proved to be too tough and agile to knock down and was well ahead on points throughout the fight, but Foreman surprised everyone by lasting the full 12 rounds and losing on points. Although Ring Magazine's Round of the Year was not awarded in 1991, the 7th round, in which Foreman knocked Holyfield off balance before being staggered by a powerful combination, was the high point of the fight. A year later, he fought journeyman Alex Stewart. Foreman knocked Stewart down twice in the second round, and he then tired, and Foreman was beaten pretty good, but the judges gave him a majority win. Then he fought Tommy Morrison. You remember Tommy Morrison from Rocky V. Tommy Morrison, who was known as a heavy puncher himself. Morrison retreated throughout the fight, didn't want to trade toe-to-toe with Big George, and sometimes turned his back on him, and he kind of had a strategy that worked there. He outboxed Foreman from long range and won a unanimous decision. During this period, Foreman starred briefly in his own situation comedy called George on ABC, which featured Foreman as a retired boxer. Tony Danza was the co-producer. So, of course, it failed because Tony Danza. But then came 1994. 1994. Yeah, that was when Big George again sought to challenge for the world championship after Michael Moorer had beaten Evander Holyfield for the IBF and WA titles. Having lost that fight to Morrison, Foreman was unranked, no real position to demand another title shot, But his high profile all over the place made a title shot against Moorer, who is 19 years younger than him, a lucrative prospect. And the champion was thinking, hey, man, I can make a ton of money here, and Foreman's not going to beat me. I can take this guy. He's 20 years older than me. Well, November 5th, Las Vegas, Nevada. Oh, maybe we should do Cosell. November 5th, Las Vegas, Nevada. Big George Foreman. Anyway, Foreman was wearing the same red trunks that he had worn in his title loss to Ali 20 years earlier. But this time, Foreman was the substantial underdog. For 9 rounds, Moorer easily outboxed him, hitting and moving away while Foreman chugged forward, seemingly unable to pull the trigger on his punches. Entering the 10th round, Foreman was trailing on all the scorecards. However, Foreman launched a comeback in the 10th round and hit Moorer with a number of punches. Then a short right hand caught Moorer on the top of the chin, gashing open his bottom lip, and he collapsed to the canvas. He lay flat on the canvas as the referee counted him out. And if you see that, you can watch it on YouTube. Foreman's hands are well inside his body, and he throws a combination, and I think it staggered Moorer, and then he throws another combination, and down goes Moorer, and in a flash, George Foreman had regained the title he lost to Muhammad Ali 2 decades before. He went back to his corner, knelt in prayer as the arena erupted in cheers. And with this victory, this historic upset, George Foreman broke 3 records. He became, the same time, at age 45, the oldest fighter ever to win a world championship. 20 years after losing the title, as I mentioned, he broke the record for the fighter with the longest interval between his first and second world championships. And the age spread of 19 years between the champion and challenger was the largest of any heavyweight championship fight. He defended his title just a few times and, ended up, I think, having the title. One of the titles was stripped for him because he wouldn't fight the contender. I mean, I think he was pretty much done boxing by this time. He fought just a few more times. And there was a series, a travelogue that the Walt Disney Company had called the Walt Disney Magic Hour. And, oh, look at this. We've got an Amber Alert in the area in Rowlett, Texas. I'll look at that later. I don't think that was... I didn't have anything to do with it. Foreman was on this show called the Walt Disney Magic Hour, right? And he was the host. He was gracious in his philosophical way to his last boxing loss, but announced his final retirement. He did plan a return bout against Larry Holmes in 1999. It was going to be called the Birthday Bash due to both of the very elderly fighters' upcoming birthdays. He was set to make $10 million. Holmes would have made $4 million, but negotiations fell through and the fight was canceled. But at that point, Foreman became a very respected boxing analyst for 12 years for HBO. He said he had no plans to resume his career as a boxer, but announced in 2004 he was training for one more comeback fight at age 55. Never materialized. He left the sport of boxing after leaving HBO to pursue other opportunities. His ministerial career was very important to him due to his remarkable spiritual transformation. He said he felt like a giant hand had plucked him into consciousness after that fight against Jimmy Young, and he found himself on a locker room table surrounded by friends and staff members. He really thought he was dying. And he said, I have never felt the same again since March of 1977 when I took Christ into my life. Larry Merchant commented that there was a transformation from a young, hard character who felt a heavyweight champion should carry himself with menace to a very affectionate personality. He was welcomed into the church Under his leadership, the church he had joined opened the George Foreman Youth and Community Center to minister to children and adolescents in the area. He declared that he's always studying the Bible and stated the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know. He led 3 church services a week, which he said he aimed to reveal something about the Bible that the congregation didn't know. Hold on. The ice cream guy. He said, it doesn't matter what you achieve, what you accomplish in this life. The most important thing is to keep your eye on the true prize, and that is serving God. In 2022, Foreman competed in Season 8 of The Masked Singer as Venus Flytrap on the heels of our Carnivorous Plant Show. He was eliminated on Hall of Fame night alongside George Clinton. He also served as an executive producer on Big George Foreman, a 2023 Christian film based on his sporting and spiritual life. George was married to Mary Jo Martelli from 1985 until his death. He had 4 previous marriages and 12 children, 5 sons and 7 daughters. His 5 sons, legendarily, are all named George. George Jr., George the Third, George the Fifth, George the Sixth. He says he named his sons George so they would always have something in common. If I say to them, if one of them goes up, we all go up together, and if one goes down, we all go down together. As with his father, George III has pursued a career in boxing and entrepreneurship. George IV appeared on the 2nd season of the reality television series American Grit. His 7 daughters are from his marriage to Mary Jo Martelli. His daughters from separate relationships are named Frida, Mishi, and Georgetta. He adopted a daughter as well. In recognition of Foreman's patriotism and community service, the American Legion honored him with its James V. Day Good Guy Award during its 95th annual convention in 2013. And as I mentioned, he died in a hospital in Houston, Texas, just 3 days ago at age 76. Lastly, when George Foreman came back from retirement, he argued that his success was due to its healthy eating. He was approached by Salton Incorporated, which was looking for a spokesperson for its fat-reducing grill. As of 2009, the George Foreman Grill has sold over 100 million units. Although Foreman never confirmed exactly how much he earned from the endorsement, Salton paid him $138 million in 1999 for the right to use his name. Prior to that, he was paid about 40% of the profits from each grill sold, earning him $4.5 million a month in payouts at the peak of the sales of the George Foreman Grill, yielding an estimated total of over $200 million just from the endorsement through 2011, substantially more than he earned as a boxer. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is really all I have to tell you about the late, great, amazing life of George. 76 wins, 5 losses. George Foreman. Only 8 of those 76 wins were by decision. 68 of the 76 wins were by knockout. The man could hit. The man could hit. And when he hit you, he hurt you. And if he hurt you, he did not miss. Let's just get to a few of your timely comments. Let's get to this happy picture of our good friend George Foreman. And I'll do this. And yeah, we'll get to your comments here. Let's see. The chef says, everybody say goodnight 2 times. Tom has twin sisters. Say goodnight, Gracie. Yes, my sisters are twins of each other, and they are both wonderful. They are very wonderful people. The Wolf says, you've had the point up for too long. I feel the power. I feel explosive power. That's because of the ring, of course, the Ball State Power ring. The chef receiving a salute. Julian Zezer said Foreman's stamina might actually improve a bit with proper training, as it did later in his career. He had a different style back then, and he had to. He wasn't the wrecking machine he had been in his younger days, and he knew he was going to have to last longer in these fights. He wasn't going to knock people out in the first 4 rounds anymore. So it did. And he also said he was more relaxed while fighting. So that also attributed to his stamina, according to George. And who else would know better? Hello, chef, even though for some crazy reason I can't see you. Holyfield wasn't a true heavyweight. He really wasn't. He really wasn't. Evander Holyfield fought in the heavyweight division as... he won the championship, but he was really a light heavyweight. And Michael Spinks, when he fought Mike Tyson, he was really a light heavyweight. That's when the heavyweight division started to diminish greatly. And so there was that period of time when you had some light heavyweight fighters that would bulk up for their fights, but they really weren't true heavyweights. Wow. Kim Orville says, you're kidding, right, Julian? Holyfield was roided up to make weight, in my opinion. I don't think he was necessarily roided up, but he was a guy that had to put on a ton of weight for those fights. And he, prior to that, was he was at the very best, he was a very undersized heavyweight. Compared to Foreman, it's like 2 different weight classes fighting each other. I would agree with that. When Foreman stopped the roids, his stamina increased in later years. I don't know nothing about no roids. Kim Warfield said, I think he starved to get down for the lower crest. The dude, I believe, was 6'5", 210. Yeah. Well, the heavyweights kind of started to get... Ali was not a gigantic heavyweight either, when you think about it. He got heavy at the end of his career, but I think when he fought Liston, he was... he was not a giant heavyweight, but he had all that movement and was a true boxer, which a lot of heavyweights were not at the time. Yeah, 6'2.5" is bigger than I thought. Julian, he's a big dude. Oh, he's a big dude, all right. He's a big dude, all right. Okay, thanks. I'll check out his heavyweight boxing side. I think he was 205 for his first fight. Julian Zeter says, I'm biased against Holyfield because of his fights with Tyson. The Wolf says they both bit ears. Holy in his younger years did it. They were both carnivores. Roman Trenchcoat says, wow, so all those Georges are set for life. Man, you'd think so, wouldn't you? You would think so. Julian says, I don't like it when fighters throw a right and then immediately clench. It's not boxing to me. Me neither. And I'll tell you something else. George Foreman, what was that show? I shouldn't have closed the deal. What was that show he was on? Let me see something here. I'll find it. I've got to open this up again. He was on a show with William Shatner and somebody else. It was a bunch of old guys. It was kicking the bucket, or it was some sort of phrase. Hold on. I should have gotten through this anyway. It was called Better Late Than Never. 2016 to 2018 was the name of the show. And it starred William Shatner, Henry Winkler, George Foreman, and Terry Bradshaw. And they traveled overseas doing all the stuff that was on their bucket lists. So they went to Tokyo, Hong Kong, Seoul, Thailand, Munich, Sweden, Lithuania, Berlin, Barcelona, Madrid, Morocco, and the Sahara, which is a pretty good show. It's a pretty darn good show. Anyway, and George appeared as himself in a number of shows. Not as many as you'd think. No movies, just TV shows. That picture of Foreman is always how I think of him. Yeah, not this one. That was the young George Foreman that used to be a mugger. This is the born-again George Foreman. Thanks, he's taller than I could. Have they released his cause of death? I searched for that just before the show, and no, they have not. But you know those old heavyweight fighters, they don't live to 90, usually. Foreman is a bit before my time, other than combat fights, but as far as I know, he was the best technical fighter out of all the really big boxers. I would have to say that. A guy that doesn't get, I think, the due that he should, and a lot of people say that he was the hardest puncher, was Ernie Shavers. And he was not a bad technical fighter. And George took a lot of punishment during that second career of his. He really did. But man, I am telling you, when George Foreman tagged you, you were in big trouble. And my dad always used to point this out, and they would show so many replays. A lot of fighters, not just in the heavyweight class, but particularly in the heavyweight class, when they get a guy hurt, they smell blood in the water, and they really start trying for those headshots to take him out. Foreman was always patient, and when he hurt you, he didn't miss after that. You were going to get he didn't start throwing wild. And I'm telling you, that firm base, he was like a piston. He punched through you. That driving punch, I've never seen anything like it. It was really amazing. Until Klitschko, maybe. Yeah, Klitschko was actually a very good, especially defensive fighter. Julian Zitter says, is Foreman's youth organization still operating? Yes, it is. And by the way, you said it, Julian. Ali was not a big heavyweight. Ali, though, Ali moved like a middleweight. You know, he's such a skilled boxer, such quick hand speed, such amazing footwork. Never been a heavyweight like that. Warfield said, when he hit you, your relatives felt it. Yeah, you feel like you've been kissing the express train. Let's see here. Who's that guy that tried to call me on Friday? I don't know. Hey, our phone lines are open at 972-994-6822. Let's get that banner up. I'll keep them open for just a little while here, if anybody wants to call in. But that's all I got to tell you about the late, great George Foreman. What a wonderful man. What an amazing life and an amazing career. Starts off rough childhood, wins the Olympic gold, wins the heavyweight title, loses it in just dramatic, awful fashion, ends up retiring, finds God, leaves the sport for 10 years, becomes a huge promotion guy, pitch man, untold riches, thanks to this thing right here, your George Foreman Grill. Let's get it with the burger side. I like the burger side, but the burger, there we go. And then wins the heavyweight championship again at age 45. And then goes on to, be just a very beloved figure in American life. Terry Nee is here. Terry Nee, well known throughout the internet as a moderator and just a wonderful guy with a door that's a screen door that's a porch door maybe, that's creates a lot of content. And it's always good to see Terry Nee here. Julian Zetter's with us, says, isn't boxing just about the most pure sport possible? Been around since the original Olympics 2,000 years ago. Well, wrestling. I mean, I think maybe running is a pretty pure sport and part of almost every sport. I think sprinting, running, the running and the sprinting and the running. Hello, Terry. People saying hi. Julian, that would be wrestling. Wrestling, I think probably because I wasn't good at it and didn't like it. I did amateur boxing. I was good at that too. I had a very long reach, and I didn't like to be hit. So I would just jab and rack up those points, man. Come to think of it, you're right. sport and athletics are two different things, yes. But running is a pretty pure. I think they had some form of running in the original Olympics. Back in the day, I don't know. We didn't have any discs laying around the house or javelins. Although I guess you could use an old broom handle or something if you had. Olympic gold medal. I just with that little flag walking around. Metal Man Vicky says, electrical issues. My power surge finally cooked out. I don't know if you mentioned the TV show Better Late Than Never. I did mention that just a few minutes ago with William Shatner, Henry Winkler, good old George Foreman there, and Terry Bradshaw traveling the world, knocking off things on their bucket list. Knocking stuff off their bucket list. I liked that show. I did. The Wolf says, hold on. Running was the first in the days of the Greeks and the Romans, where it was just considered good manners to give a guest a massage. Metal Bean V said, I love that show. They traveled everywhere and had so much fun. Well, I guess you had these two kind of kooky wacky guys in Bradshaw and Shatner, and then you had these two lovable, easy to get along with guys in Winkler and Foreman. So Shatner was a riot. He really was. What was William Shatner has a couple of shows. I think one of them is called Crisis Point or something. But William Shatner has one or two shows, I forget what the names are, but where he interviews one person. Like, who is the guy that was the Long Island? He shot some people on the train in Long Island. Bernie Getz. He interviews Bernie Getz. He got some big interviews. And Shatner is really great as an interviewer because he'll just, now, put me in this situation. You're on the bus. And were you thinking this or were you thinking that? All right, so you're thinking that. Shatner, incredibly good at that, by the way. Have I told you all my William Shatner story? Have I? William Shatner was in Indianapolis. I think they were doing that show, 911 Emergency or whatever that he hosted. I can't remember, but he was at a recording studio that I did a lot of work for. And that did a lot of work for me. I was over there all the time. And I was going to interview him for a magazine interview, a local magazine. And there was somebody, this member of the press or two, maybe three, in front of me. They pushed me to the back, of course. And they wanted all these pictures taken with him after they were done with their little interview. And there was a camera person there. And so I could tell this was irritating him a little bit because he was there just to record some stuff and leave. He didn't want to be there. I didn't blame him. And I had heard a little about his ego and things of that nature, which nothing bad. But so the woman comes up to me before I even did the interview. And I made sure he was within earshot. And she said, would you like to have a picture with Mr. Shatner? And I said, a picture? I'm about to have something far more valuable. I'm about to have a conversation with this man. Oh, the crankiness and all it was gone. It was smooth sailing, my interview with him. Those other people, he was a little contentious with them and cut the interview off. And me, he sat there and we were buds when I met William Shatner. And I acted like incredulous. A picture? I'm about to have something far more valuable. I'm about to have a conversation with this man. I was like almost scolding her. Like, are you mad? Anyway. Julian says, I missed the first 15 minutes, but Foreman Was Foreman really considered a mean guy early in his career? He is very likable in his retirement. Well, number one, and he admit this, he was a mugger as a youth, and he was very aloof. He would not speak to the press. He was dour. He was considered no fun, we'll put it that way. And that's what made the transformation all the more awesome. Hold on here. I got to do I don't know why it keeps doing this to me when I open up my... I won't be doing it after May the 5th, and I'll have to figure out a different way to get people to call in here. Julian, he was the muscle for sharks, I thought. Maybe that was it. People saying hi. People saying hi. Mike Rodick says, I don't have a bucket list. I have a different list. It's a list of all the things I couldn't care less about between now and the time I die. The list gets longer every day. I think I'm in that same camp with you there, Mike. Julian Zeder says, I bought Shatner's first novel way back in the day. What was it called? Tech Wars or something like that? He wrote several. It was very noted off. That was William Shatner. Yes, of course. Mm-hmm. He's in Kingdom of the Spiders. Anyway, tomorrow night on this program, let me make double sure of this. Oh, boy. Tomorrow night on the Tom Gulley Show. Boy, oh boy, are you in for a treat. Man, oh man, are you in for a big, big treat. Let's see. I want to make sure and get this order correct here, because it would be just like me to screw it up. Okay, so tomorrow night, we'll be doing a show on lint. That's right. I'm doing a show on lint. Take that, Internet. Just when you thought my show couldn't become more unwatchable, ha! Hold my beer. I don't even drink. Anyway, Wednesday night, Elvis Costello. That's going to be a long show. Elvis Costello is my favorite musical performer of all time. Lenny Bruce will be the topic on Thursday night. And Friday night, ball jars. Ball jar. Not to be confused with mason jars, by the way. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself, mister. That's not going to work out for you too well. There you go. Oh, let's see. Julian Zeder says, if you want to do other boxing topics, I'm all for it. I'm full of opinions that I need to be disabused of. Well, Julian, perhaps you can go back and research one of my ancestors, John Gulley, who was the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Yes, yes, back in the day, bare knuckle. Yes. The Wolf says he does have several series of sci-fi novels. Julian Zeder says, I got the first one, didn't get the others, so that'll let you know what I thought of it. The Wolf says, I think he already did Marvelyn Hagler already. I don't think I did. Pretty sure I didn't. I'd prefer to do Vito Antuofermo, who gave Marvin Hagler all sorts of fits. Middleman Vicky says, does he? I did not know that. His singing is unique. Rock it, man. Yes. Julian Zeder says, but he's to be commended for writing them. It's a difficult thing he did. And oddly captivating, yes. Yes. 0 hour, 9 a.m. And I'm going to be high. I'm a rock it man. Yeah, that was... I think I saw him in an interview about that. I forget what he said about it, but... Then we talked about it for 2 hours. Yeah, we did. I remember we talked about Hagler. Julian Zeder says Shatner seems to have dipped his toe in just about every form of media. He really has. Shatner's is an interesting man. He's up there too. boy, is he up there. And he's another guy that was really typecast after Star Trek. He talks about living, he was taking carpentry jobs and living in his station wagon and taking money. People would pay him just to come to parties and hang out with them and stuff. Melamain Vicky says nobody out dramas Shatner. He said that he got his unusual way of speaking from a play that he was in that was like, that ran short. It was like they needed it to be longer, so every night he would extend his dialogue. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what he said. The Priceline guy. Yes, he's also the Priceline guy. And he did, remember the butter, the margarine? Promise. He did that too. He's done a lot of things. Vicky, did you hear that metal album sort of with Pat Boone? Oh, his version of Smoke on the Water is just incredible. Seems like what it would be like if Shatner did metal. Yes. He was doing voice work for industrial films. Yeah, he was doing anything he could. Melamain Vicky says, I may have missed this too, but why did George name all of his sons George? Well, he said that he wanted them to all have something in common, and if we all go up, we go up together. And if we go down together. And that sort of thing. But who knows, man? Who knows? Well, hey, I guess we'll close down the phone lines. Let's see. Pat Boone Goes Metal is awesome. It really is. And what's even more awesome is some of the interviews he did with just a leather jacket, nothing on underneath him. Okay, I'm closing down the phone lines. They're closed. Tomorrow night, we'll be doing Lint. That's right, Lint. Don't ever dare me. I will do a show on anything. I think I've proven that. But you got to remind people every once in a while. You can't let people get comfortable. But at any rate, wow, you guys have been great this evening. I would really like to thank Rumpled Trenchcoat. Man, if you're not watching that show, you are missing out. Rumpled Trenchcoat, Columbo podcast. Watch the episode, listen to the podcast, change your life. It is wonderful. And Rumpled and his co-host are fine people that are brilliant. They have extremely, you got to be smart to have them careers. They're very successful, and their show reflects their genius when they do it. Gilman, thank you for the super sticker. And Lawrence, thank you so much for your support. You are joy. You are joy. Julian says, oh, let's see here, like 9 kids or something like that. Well, he had 12 kids, not just 9. Julian says, thanks, Tom. Thanks, everyone else. Kim, Vicky, et al. Thank you, Julian. Pat, donning the leather. Yes. The Wolf says, not this much leather, but leather. Why does it do that? Why are they doing that? A bunch of jerks. You know what? They're just a bunch of jerks, is what they are. Sounds like Jeremiah Johnson with only a jacket. Yes. Buried the clothes too shallow. Spotted it right off. Rumble Trenchcoat says, thank you for the kind words. Well, thank you. You did all the work. And they're not kind words. They're the facts. Just the facts, ma'am. No bottoms. Let's see. Maybe 12. Okay, dang. Yes. He had 12 of them chillins. Lint, tomorrow night, a show on Lint. Wednesday night, Elvis Costello. Thursday night, Lenny Bruce. Friday night, The Ball Jar. The Ball Jar. By the way, this week this is a big week for doing people. We're doing 3 people in 1 week. I normally only had 1, generally. But this week, 3 personages, people type folks that are people. At any rate, I'm looking at that old clock on the wall, and it says Well, like the river now green, it's time for me to get on up out of here. You do not have to stay here, but you can't go home. Sorry. Switch that, reverse it. And last but not least, I think the only thing left to say is, whoops, almost messed this up. Only thing left to say is, oh, wait, there's a smile. Thank you for this smile. I've been saving my lint for tomorrow. Well, I'll tell you all sorts of things about lint that you didn't know. Dan says, R.I.P. George Foreman. Dan is Wolf and Dan, is Dan the guy with the kid whose son played football for the Greyhounds? Maybe went to IU or something. Maybe he was a backer or safety, or I don't remember. Yes, Rip. We haven't done as good at football lately. I think we did real well there for sure. The last, I'd say 3-4 years, haven't done as well. Basketball either. We went back to back in basketball, but girls swimming. Oh yes. So he's the young man. All right then. All right. And one year we got to the finals in soccer, boys and girls. Lost them both. In our fine tradition that I helped start of going to the state finals 2 years in a row and losing the final game. That doesn't stay with you your whole life. Anyway, till next time. Hold on here. All right. Till next time. We'll see you next time.
1, 2, 3, 4. They call me Mr. Gulley. I've got something for your ear. Now it might sound kind of funny, but I'll make it very clear. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gulley, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gully, yes I am. So what we talking